What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician Dane Martinez, and today we continue to talk about what it could look like against the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football, in Week 4. Okay, and by the way, if you want to become a Jets Latest insider, you already know the drill. Click on the link at the top of the description. You get some exclusive videos, some other supports here, all sorts of things, whether it be in fantasy football, the sports betting world, not just the green and white. We appreciate everybody that watches these videos, like these videos, subscribe to the channel, comment on the channel. I really like engaging with you all, but let's get to it, okay? And remember, it's a Monday Night Football game, so practices and practice reports are a little bit delayed. There's going to be a Saturday practice, so while it is still kind of earlier than normal in the week, I want to start off with the fact that the Jets are a little bit banged up, and specifically on defense, I think we are going to be seeing new defenders on the field against Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle, and the crew in Miami. Quite frankly, the linebacker group is one that is now a concern. Wasn't a concern for me, right? The secondary was a concern, getting pressure. The linebacker, heck, we had 2 Pro Bowlers. We had Jamie Sherwood, we had Quincy Williams, we had another captain in McCrary Ball, but we have been bit by the injury bug. Quincy Williams is now on IR with that shoulder injury that he sustained against the Tampa Bay Bucks. He's going to miss at least the next 4 games being on IR. McCrary Ball also on IR with a hamstring, like more of a special teams player, but has gotten a ton of reps on defense. He was another linebacker that is going to be out for the next 4 games. So now, with those guys out, the Jets, they signed Mark Robinson. They also signed another guy, Ben Neiman, to the practice squad. It looks like it's going to be Jamie Sherwood, or a rookie out of Miami, Kiko Mayuga. Are now going to get, Mayuga's going to start probably. Sherwood is out there on his lonesome. What we may see maybe is a little bit more nickel, right? We may see a little bit more Michael Carter out there as well in that kind of slot corner. But honestly, they're banged up otherwise as well. I think the linebacker room is particularly thin. We may even have to adjust in terms of our scheme, our format. I think Michael Carter will play a little bit more, like I said, in the slot. But we've got a lot of other injuries. I mean, everybody's banged up. Every team in the NFL has injuries. But if you look at the Jets in terms of like the number of starters that are down, it is a lot, okay? We got obviously the linebacker core that are out, right? Then obviously Justin Fields, concussion, missed last week. That's a pretty big one. Jermaine Johnson still dealing with that ankle injury. We've been talking about the pass rush needs, right? Well, Jermaine Johnson getting back would be big. I think Keeney Nwanu is a big one. Remember, Xavier Gipson fumbled after Keeney got hurt in week 1. We had Keeney to be kind of a kickoff return or return specialist. He's one of the better ones in Jets Latest. I've been talking about this a bunch. His return average is something like 4th all time, and also that difference in the rules this year, you're starting to see it. A lot more returns, right? I thought this was a high leverage ad, and he has missed the last couple with a hamstring. And honestly, I know we were talking about, the wide receiver 2. Josh Reynolds has been out with a hamstring. And I think that's actually important because I think he's a much more stabilizing force as a veteran, sure-handed, knows the system than, say, the Tyler Johnsons, the Arian Smith, the Alan Lazards that we have been going to. I think we miss Josh Reynolds, to be quite honest. These guys are also recovering from injury. So we will keep our eyes on that. Remember, with this Monday Night Football game, there will be a Saturday practice. So when you get this Jets Latest episode on Monday before the game, we'll have kind of more updated ideas of who's going to be up, where the holes are, and things of that nature. But one of the things I've also talked about is here in the secondary, right? And there's been a lot of buzz. I started talking about it a long time ago. The idea that Brandon Stephens has some versatility, could play safety. I mentioned it yesterday. The Jets made a trade. They have traded for the Tennessee Titans starting cornerback Jarvis Brownlee Jr., okay? All they had to do was swap 6th and 7th round picks with Tennessee. I got to tell you something. If you're on social media, the Tennessee Titan fans, analysts, they are upset about this. They thought Brownlee was a player, had something to him. Last year, he was kind of 3rd on their team in tackles. I said it before, performed well as a rookie. Currently, right now, he is the PFF #1 ranked corner in terms of stopping the run. He can tackle. So we like that. That's something obviously Aaron Glenn will like as well. He was 17th at stopping the run last year among all cornerbacks that played kind of 500 snaps or more. The issue with him, and what I think is interesting, because it is not in vogue with Aaron Glenn, is he's got a penalty issue. He has been called for 11 penalties in 19 games. There was also some talk that he was late to team meetings, that sort of stuff. They're trying to frame it like they wanted to get Brownlee out because of character issues. I don't buy it because, quite frankly, Muji and Glenn would not have this guy in the building, would not target him if that was really a case. I'm sure they did their due diligence on him. He's 5'10", 194 pounds, only 24 years old. So, again, maybe another guy to coach and develop. And to be honest, we need to move Brandon Stevens off press man coverage, okay? Last week, you saw it. They made the point on the telecast. Anytime that Mike Evans was not being covered by Sauce, it was just like Baker was just, boom, automatically firing and targeting his way. They were attacking that, and teams are going to attack that. I have said this a ton on Jets Latest. When you have a Pro Bowl, all-pro corner like Sauce, the other side was going to be important. Back in the preseason, remember, I talked about this with Jameis Winston, even be like, we're not going to target you. People are going to attack the other side. All right. And Brandon Stevens has been poor. Quite frankly, Brandon Stevens, his PFF grade ranks 103rd out of 158 cornerbacks so far. So well below average. And this week, Tua is an accurate quarterback if he has time. That's why missing Jermaine Johnson, not getting time to pressure is a problem. But Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the outside, that is a formidable duo. Sauce can only be on one of them. So, what are we doing here? I don't want Stevens to continue to get attacked. I'll said it before. I will say it again. What ultimately I think happens here is Stevens becomes part of the safety group along with Cisco and Malachi Moore. Those I think are our three safeties. Adams, to hell with him, okay? I think it is Cisco, Moore, and Brandon Stevens. I think the top three cornerbacks are obviously Sauce, Brownlee, who we just acquired, and we are going to give Azareye'h Thomas a big-time look, I think, this week, because Brownlee is actually dealing with an ankle injury. He was in a walking boot after last week's game, okay? So I think we're going to see a lot more of AZ Thomas, our third-round pick, who's looked good to me. And I think Thomas and Moore, we got to get these guys in. And I think we're going to see Sauce, AZ, and then Brownlee as our three main cornerbacks. Obviously, Michael Carter is that slot nickel cornerback, and I think he is just fine at that. So we shall see. That's what I'm saying. New defenders on the field, both in the secondary and at the linebacker level. So this could be a liability. We just hope the Miami Dolphins and their offense can't get rolling. One thing I know, we talked about it on a previous episode of Jets Latest, the Miami defense is blunt guts trash. Bottom 5, literally in most categories, have allowed all opponents to score at least 30 on them. Hopefully the Jets can do that this week and move the ball, whether it's Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor. Again, we'll talk about the injuries on Monday morning when you get the next episode of Jets Latest, because there will be a final practice on Saturday. If they can't move the ball, however, one, it'll be a bad sign for the Jets offense, okay? Because the defense of the Dolphins has been a sieve. However, if they can't move the ball, I've got to say it again. We've got a weapon in Austin McNamara. We really do. This is a signing. Remember, I've been talking about how he was all-conference, all-American, and in the preseason, he looked good. Well, let me put some stats on it. He is the number 1 punter in the league as for PFF so far. His net punt average of 44.5, 5th best in the league. The hang time, which is really important, okay, because the hang time is what allows coverage to get down there, and it's what creates fair catches, right? And that's, his hang time is 4th in the NFL at over 4.7 seconds in the air per punt. However, McNamara is the only one who has the distance and the hang time ranked in the top 5 in both of those categories. And what it really comes down to is he's able to pin guys inside the 20. We talk about that a lot as well. But Cats are not returning punts when McNamara puts it in the air. McNamara's return punts average is only 3.5 yards. I think that is important. That's why the hang time is important. And I want to shout him out because Aaron Glenn talks about our style. We're going to be physical. We're going to run the ball. We're going to play a clean game, even though we haven't done that with penalties and turnovers so far. That's the vision. That's the standard. That's what we want to do. That Aaron Glenn keeps on talking about the kinds of games and how we need to come through in those. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. Austin McNamara and Kenny Iwanu are big-time players for us. McNamara in field position, right, when we're not moving the ball, as a punter, and also Nguanu as one of the better kick returners if he can get on the field, makes a big time difference, especially with the kickoff rules. I think these are two special teams weapons that we need. McNamara has been doing it so far. I want to get Keeney back from that hamstring injury. So I think that is very, very important. That'll do it for what we're talking about today on Jets Latest. Let's go into the weekend, see how some of these injured Jets, Fields in the concussion protocol, Josh Reynolds, Jermaine Johnson. These are big-time guys that we need against the Dolphins on Monday night. Let's see what it is and see how we adjust. Let's see if they do make that move of Stevens to safety. Let's see if we see more of A.Z. Thomas against Miami and when Brownlee gets in the mix, what he looks like, right? But as always, let's see what some of you guys had to say on Jets Latest. Remember, become an insider. If you become an insider, I will be amping up your comments each and every episode. If you want your comments to be on the show, become a Jets Latest insider. Click on that link. All sorts of other perks as well throughout the season. But let's see what some of you guys have to say. Day one, Jets Latest. Old Dave says, I was optimistic about the direction this team took with the hiring of the staff, and I still am. Any realistic person never should have expected that there wouldn't be growing pains. Let's see a full season before we overreact. I completely agree. I told you it wasn't about the wins and losses. It's about how we feel if it is moving forward in the right direction. That's part of why I think this idea of going to Tyrod is nonsense. We're going to see Justin Fields if he is up and through with the protocol. Tim Smith E2M says, I'm getting older and I want to see something good before I croak. I get it, right? Because I'm over here preaching patience. Tim Smith is like, I'm getting older. Maybe I ain't got much patience. But old Dave is trying to be patient. I hear you, Tim. Listen, I again look at the Detroit Lions, right? This is only Dan Campbell's 5th year as the Lions coach. They were 3-13-1 their first year. Then they started competing. Second year was like, look out for the Lions. Winning division, NFC Championship game. So, Tim Smith, hang on with us, and I hope you do for a few more years. Maybe the Glennaissance can get there in the window you're looking for. Nocturnal27 says, I'm still optimistic this Jets team will turn it around soon. I like the patience and optimism. Harlem Abraham, 7772 says, being a more competitive team would be good. The Jets can't have all these penalties. Must put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. I talked about that earlier in the week as well, and we can't allow Clemens to keep getting those penalties. Hope the wounded Jets heal up. I do think that's important. Listen, every team's got injuries, but 2 linebackers, a main pass rusher, our starting quarterback, our second wide receiver, and other guys like a Tufele, like a Kine. We got to get healthy. We got to get healthy here. But if we do, and if we kind of don't lay an egg and get back to it, I am confident we can get our first W of the season here against the Miami Dolphins. So hopefully you guys all have a great weekend. During the weekend, also, you can hear me, the Spittin' Statistician, on the FTN Fantasy Show over on SiriusXM, channel 87. If you're 0-3 in fantasy, we got you. We're going to be telling you what's real, what's fake, looking at our rankings, looking at all sorts of other tools FTN has to make you a better fantasy player and a better sports better, even Major League Baseball playoffs on the horizon. We hold you down for that as well, all right? Hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up in the comments. We got you. We have a great weekend. Hope you do as well. We will be back on Monday in advance of Week 4 Monday Night Football against the Miami Dolphins. But for this episode of Jets Latest, we out of here. Peace.